So available for is the criteria using which the catalog items will be given access to the users defined in the user criteria, and not available for is exactly opposite. Okay, for example, you're defining a user criteria to allow this access to the catalog item only for specific users who are defined in the user criteria. Not available for, here also you'll define the user criteria, and which all users should not be given access specifically, which all users should not be given access specifically, those users will be adding in the user criteria here. Same way how you define the user criteria, same way you'll define the user criteria here as well. But whatever the conditions that you define in the user criteria here, all those defined users will not have access to this particular catalog item. Getting it? So either one, either this one or this one you will define. Okay. Sometimes the requirement will be, it should be allowed only for specific group of users or specific set of users. Then you will define available for option. Okay. Sometimes the requirement will be allow access to this catalog item to all the users except so and so users, except so and so users. Then that time you will not configure available for, you will configure not available for. Here you will define the user criteria and you will add those specific list of users in the user criteria here. Okay, so exactly opposite, we are not discussing again it here. Either one of it you will be configuring based on the requirement, right? So click on try it. So observe carefully here. So reported user. So whenever this value is changed, we want to populate email address and manager here. Okay, so we already discussed this kind of use case on the tables. So we'll discuss here as well on the catalog items. So what did we do for this kind of auto population in case of tables? What configuration we have done? Anybody? Anybody remembered? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. What configuration we have done that? In case of tables, in order to auto populate manager and email address, we used client scripts, right? So we configured an on change client script in case of tables. So here also similar use case. So we'll be using catalog client script, catalog client script. So go back to the item, right? Configure item. Right? And observe carefully here. So catalog client script, duplicate. So there are no client scripts as of now on this item. So click on new. So this is a form to create the client script. So give some meaningful name. Say auto populate user details or manager and email on the item. Okay, auto populate manager and email on the catalog item. So where do you want to apply this catalog client script? So you are applying on catalog item. So select the drop down as catalog item. And which catalog item? So this is the catalog item. Okay, and in which platforms you want to have this catalog client script to execute? So select all. Right, we want to have it executed on all the types of platforms. Next, type. So what type of client script do we want to configure? So whenever value is changed, whenever reported user value is changed, we want to populate email address and manager. Is the use case clear? Requirement? Everybody? So based on change of the value, we want to execute the logic. So select the type as on change. Okay, on change. On change of which variable? So reported user variable. Select the variable here. Select reported user. So in which all views you want to have this client script to execute? So we have 3 views, right? One is catalog item view, one is R item view, and then other is catalog task view. So in which view we want to have this client script? So currently I'm selecting for catalog item view and then R item view, requested item view, both views. Save it. Please ask me any questions if you have doubts. Don't hesitate. So now script configuration. So how do we write the script here? So we used first the approach will be, so this is a reference variable. So we'll first read the value selected on the reference variable, and whichever the record it is referenced to, then we'll dot walk to that record. Okay, dot walk to that record. We'll read email and we'll read manager. Okay, we'll read email and manager and then set those values on the email address variable, manager variable. So first read this variable. Okay, so approach is read the reported user variable and then dot walk to the referenced record and read the email comma manager field values from the user record. Okay, the first step, after you read the email and manager from the user record, set the email manager values on the email address comma manager variables on the catalog item. Okay, so these are the steps that we would be performing. So first execute the first step. So how do you write the script here? So in order to read the value selected on the variable, so we'll be using something like this. So g underscore form dot get value. So since we are writing client side script, we'll be using g underscore form. Okay, so g underscore form dot get value of which variable? Not get value. For reading the reference variables, we have a method called dot get a reference. Okay, get reference, pass the variable name here. Okay, say pass the variable name. So what's the variable name for the reported user? Check it. So right click, configure variable. So this is the variable. Copy and use callback function. So callback. So generally we'll not be using this name callback. So just for your understanding, I'm giving you a name like callback here. So define and store it into a variable. So variable user detail. Okay. So this is a variable. So what are the value that you get here? So you will get whenever you read a reference variable or reference field, you will always get the sysID. Okay. You get the sysID of this record. So that record is referenced, right? So that reference is being stored on this particular variable. Now, what is the next step? Dot walk to the reference record and read the email and manager. So dot walk. So define the definition for this callback function. So this is a way you do function callback. Okay. This is a function definition that you would define. And for this function, pass this variable as input parameter. Okay. Next. So read the email and manager from the referenced record. So use this variable dot, because on this variable only this reference is being stored. This variable reference is stored. So this variable dot email. Okay. This will give you the manage email address of the user. Store it into a variable called variable v email. Getting it? Next, similarly, read the manager. So these are all the field values, okay? Backend field values from the user table. Manager of the user. Assign it to a variable. Variable v mgr. Okay. So after reading, what do? You have to set it. Getting it? So you have to execute this step. Set the email and manager. So how do you set? Again, use g underscore form dot set value. Set value of. Okay. So email address. Read the backend variable name. Say configure variable. So this is what the variable name, backend name. So set the variable email address with what value? With the email value. So this is the value. Similarly, g underscore form dot set value of manager. Where is it? So manager, right? So it will be manager. Variable name is manager. Set it with this value. Right? So now we're able to write the syntax. Save it. Up till now, is it clear?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Now refresh. Now observe carefully. See, whenever I'm changing the value, it is populating the email address and manager. And whenever I'm changing the value, see, it is setting manager. This user doesn't have manager, so it's empty. Select any other user. See, So whenever you're changing the value, this is auto populating. Is that clear, guys? Right. So we'll come back again onto this. So observe carefully here. I'll just create this ticket, create the request. So the client script is working on the catalog item view. Now I'll raise a request. Open the request. Open the RATM. So this is the RATM view, and you can see the variables here. So whenever you change the value here as well, say for example, I'm changing to this. See, the client script is working on RATM view as well. RATM view as well, because we have set it here. Applies on RATMs as well. Requested items. Okay. Any doubts? Or else we'll go for next topic. So next we'll discuss on the workflows. Okay. Workflows most important. They're like a backbone for the catalog items. Without workflows, catalog items won't be processed. So what do you mean by workflow? Workflow is the automated process which runs on the catalog items for the request fulfillment. So workflow is the automated process which runs on the catalog items for fulfillment of the request. So workflow contains activities, sequence of activities. Each activity does perform or does execute specific logic or functionality. Okay. So, so workflows, they contain activities. Okay. Each and every activity will have some logic to execute. So I'll show you how the workflow looks like. So let's take some sample item. So for this item, this is not our item, different item. So for this item, there is a field called workflow, and on this, there is a workflow record referenced. Workflow for the custom item 11. So click on this. So you see here, so this is the workflow for this item. It contains, these are all called activities. Okay. So workflow contains activities and they're joined using some lines here. They're called transition lines. Okay. All the activities are joined using transition lines. And here workflow contains begin and end. Okay. Begin and end. And between the begin and end, we'll be adding these kind of activities. Okay. So each and every activity will have some purpose and some logic to execute. Depending upon our requirement, we'll be using these activities in the workflow while building the workflow. So now observe carefully here why this workflow is required. Okay. So now a request is raised by the end user and RATM is generated. So now whatever the request is raised, that has to be fulfilled for the user. So in order to fulfill the request for the user, the RATM has to be processed. That means there should be some task generated and it should be assigned to some team. Team should work on the task and then complete the work and get the work done so that the user will receive the fulfillment of the request. You place an order in the Amazon, right? So that order will be assigned to some backend team. Backend team will work on the order. They will have individual tasks for them, right? Like procurement task, testing task, and then check whether the functionality is working or not for the product, and then deliver it using some uh, logistics team. So all these are different activities which are linked to your order. Once all these activities are completed, then you will receive your order. Same way here also, user is raising some request. So that request has to be fulfilled. In order to fulfill that request, there should be some work to be done by various teams. So those work will be done by this small task, catalog task. So in order to automate this catalog task creation, and in order to send approvals, if the request is supposed to trigger some approvals to some managers or the business users, and when that approvals trigger, everything should be automated. Nobody should be creating approvals manually. So that should be automated. Once approval is approved by the manager, then only the requester should proceed further and then create some catalog tasks. Once all the catalog tasks are completed, then the RATM record should be moved to closed, right? Move to closed status. Once RATM is closed, request should be closed. So this is actually the process. So how do you automate this process? How do you automate this process? You will automate using the workflows. Getting it? Automate using workflows. Now currently, we did not create any workflow and we created this RATM for our item, right? See what happens. I see some tasks are generated. How come these tasks are generated? I did not create any workflow, right? So whenever a workflow is not attached to the catalog item, whenever the workflow is not attached to the catalog item, there will be something called execution plan that will take care of processing the request. So go to process engine, you see some execution plan here. So there is some default execution plan attaches to the catalog item whenever there is no workflow or flow designer. Getting it? So important point here, whenever there is no workflow attached to the catalog item, there will be default execution plan attached to the item. So this is a out of the box configuration. What is this default execution plan? So default execution plan says, for example, open this record, click on this preview icon, open record. So this execution plan says, so it executes on the requested item table. and it will create records on task table, catalog task table. And what does it do? It creates these two tasks, execution plan task and task. These are the two tasks. Now you can see here, go to our RITM. So for this RITM, there are two tasks generated. So these two tasks are generated. They're nothing but the tasks generated because of this default execution plan. So one task is assigned to field services, one task is assigned to software. One task is assigned to field services, and then other task is assigned to software. And this is a short description, and you can see the same description here and same description. So these two tasks are generated by the default execution plan. Getting it? So without tasks, there won't be an RITM request fulfillment. So that's the reason these tasks are generated through default execution plan. Now close them. So close this task. Open them. Close it. Say close complete. Update. Now close complete. So when both the tasks are completed, then you can see that state is close completed and stage is also close completed. And you can see some notifications triggering on this RITM. So on the RITM, there will be some notifications triggered, email notifications. So we can check that in the email logs. Type emails in the application navigator. Click on this. So go to the email logs, type emails, and on system logs, emails, navigate to this. And these are all the logs related to the emails. And you can see here, these are all the emails triggered from ServiceNow on this RITM. So once this RITM is created, and once these tasks are completed, and once RITM is closed, there will be different emails triggered from ServiceNow to the users. So you can check that here. So you see here, what is our RITM number? Copy this. Let me just check. I don't see any emails triggered. There should be some emails triggered. So that should be the out of the box configuration. Right. Just let me check. Notifications are not configured. That's why they're not showing up here. None of the notifications are meeting the criteria, but I think they should be. Just a moment. So requested item table and recordings state changes to close completed. Who are supposed to receive? Requested for and request opened by. Where is our RITM? request dot requested for. So where is request? Here it is. So requested for is system administrator. Request dot opened by. There is no body at all. It's an empty body. Okay. So maybe that's the reason it's not triggering, because empty email will not go. So there should be some subject line and body of the email should be defined. So this out of the box email is not having all the information. And that too, it is only for mobile, not for the desktop. Statement. Any other email? No, I don't think there is any other email triggered here. Let me just open this. Right, request dot requested for watch list. Add some comment here. If you have an option, try adding some comments. Test update on the RATM. Save. Verify. So email got generated just now. Preview. So this is what the comment just now we added. So there are no notifications basically configured on requested item table. That's why notifications are not triggered. Okay. So we'll see these notifications. We have separate discussion for this. Okay. We'll cover that during that discussion. So we'll get back to the workflows. So as I said, whenever there is no workflow configured for the catalog item, there will be default execution plan that will execute. Now let's start with the workflow. So workflow contains few activities. So we'll have to learn about them, and also we'll understand few technical terms related to the workflow. So these technical terms are important for the certification. Okay. So open any of the workflow. So here you see, so this is the home screen for the workflows. Okay. And you can see published, checkout, and when you place the control on the published, you're seeing list of workflows. Each and every entry here is nothing but a workflow, and you're seeing the list of workflows here. Similarly, checkout. So these are all the workflows in checkout state. So we'll talk about published and checkout in detail in some time. So right now, so published and checkout, these are the two states that workflow can have. And you can click on any of the workflow here. So that will be opened up here. Open anyone. So I opened two workflows. So they're opening in beside to each other in tabs format. So here, so these tabs are called canvas tabs. These tabs are called canvas tabs, and this is called the title of the workflow. This is called the title of the workflow. And here, right click on these three lines. This is called context menu options. So we'll see some options here. We'll talk about them. And this is about the title, workflow title. And this is called canvas. This is called canvas. Just give me a minute. So this is called title of the workflow, and these are all the workflow context menu options. And this is called the area where you see the actual workflow is called the canvas. And all these lines which are joining the activities are called transition lines, and these individual items here, boxes, they're called activities. And so you see on the right side, see some expander minimizer. So you see some, place the cursor on this arrow mark, you see open, click on this. So there you see some other tabs. So this section is called palette, and these are called palette tabs. And again, you have two tabs here, palette tabs, workflows and core. And these are all the workflows present in the system. These are all the workflows present in the system, published or checkout. Both the workflows are present here. And core, so these are all the core activities. So using these core activities only, we'll be building the workflow. So these are all the activities used from here. Okay. So we'll have to understand these core activities. Okay. Now, so when you go to this home screen, you won't see the core activities. When you open any of the workflow, then only you will see the core activities. So that's how it is designed. So terms are very important. Terminology is very important. Canvas tabs, title, canvas. Canvas is this. This is canvas, and these are all. This is palette tabs, and these are all the core activities. Okay. This area is called palette. Okay. Next. So if you want to create a new workflow, you can use this option, or you have new workflow button here as well on the home screen. You can use that. Okay, to create the new workflow. And if you want to open any existing workflow, you can use this, open existing. If you want to create a copy of this workflow, okay, if you want to create a copy of this workflow, you can use this copy workflow. Sometimes the workflows will be similar. So that time, if you want to create similar workflow, you need not create from the scratch. You can use this copy workflow option so that you will get the copy of the workflow. Next, I see state as published here. So this is a published workflow. And I see another state here called checkout. So if you want to change the workflow to checkout state, you can use this, click on this option so that this workflow will move to checkout state. Again, when you're in checkout state, you will see publish option here. So click on that, you will see the workflow is changed to published. Expand transitions. So these are all the transition lines, right? So if you want, see here, the lines are overlapping here. So these two lines, this line and this transition line are overlapping here. So if you want to see the expanded view of the transition lines, you can click on this expand transitions. Instrument. Collapse. See here, observe here. You'll find the difference. See, they're expanded. Right. They're collapsed. So that way you can expand the transition lines. Validate workflow. If there are any issues you want to validate, you can validate using this option. And properties, click on this. You can check the workflow properties. So properties like, so we have different properties here. So general in the sense like what is the name of the workflow, on which table this workflow is configured. So it is configured on requested item table, and it is in published state. Currently it is in published state, so that's why checkout and checked out by is empty, right? And so these are all the stages of the workflow that you can add it into the catalog item. So once you raise a request, you can make sure like it is in a state called fulfillment. And once it is sent for approval, you can have the requested item in the state called waiting for approval. And once the request is RATM is approved, you can have the RATM change to request approved state, right? And once the RATM is completed, then you can have the status stages completed. So these are all the stages that you can add up here. These stages will be added to the RATM. So main thing here is learning the core activities, understanding the core activities, purpose of it. So we'll try understanding the core activities. Not all core activities are important. So most commonly used and most popularly used core activities we'll be discussing here. Core activities. So there are various core activities. One is approval activities. Okay. Conditional activities. Okay. Next. Notification activities. Create task activities. Timers. Utilities. So these are all the activities, right? So approval activities. What do you mean by approval activities? Activities related to these are used to trigger approvals to the users. Okay, using these approval activities, you can trigger the approvals. So there are core activities under the approval activities like approval user, approval group, approval action. Okay, so there are many other, but these are most popularly used, commonly used. Approval user, approval group, approval action. Conditional activities. You have conditional activities to define some conditions used to define conditions in the workflow. Conditions like if, conditions like switch. Okay, so these are the conditional activities. They are used to trigger the notification. Used to trigger notifications. Okay. Activities like create event. Okay. So you can check here. Create event notification. So these are the activities. Next. Tasks. Okay. So activities like, so these are used to create records on the tables. So one is create task and one is catalog task. Right. Next, timers used to define timing kind of logic. So timer. Next, commonly used various scenarios like so these are the utility activities which are used for different activities and scenarios. So like branch, join, set values, lock, unlock, okay, lock, unlock. What else? Run script. Set values, run script, lock, unlock, branch, join, log message. So these are all the activities part of utilities, and others are not used. Okay, other activities like on call, they're not used, and subflows, they are used. Okay, so whenever there is a big workflow, large workflow, and in order to configure the workflow, okay, into a short workflow, so you can create subflows and then you can use those subflows in the main workflow. You can divide this workflow into small simple workflows, and then you can divide this into simple subflows and then use all those subflows to build the main workflow. Getting it? So that's about the subflows. So these are all not used. So let's try configuring a new workflow. Right. So these are all the activities. So we'll take up some use case and we'll work. Okay. Anybody has any questions so far? Any questions, doubts, please ask me. Don't hesitate.
Dilip, when we publish the workflow, what it did?
Mhm.
If
When
we
we-
are publish
Hmm.
if we are publish the workflow, what if the
Hmm.
what if done?
Right, we'll talk about those states, checkout statement, published state. When we start the workflow creation, right, we'll understand
Yeah.
that difference very clearly,
Okay, Dilip.
right?
Thank you. Dilip.
Others, any questions? Able to follow? Are you complete? Are you understanding completely, or you're not understanding anything? That's I'm not actually getting it because you people are not asking me any doubts. Alekia? Alivelu? Mahesh? Manasa? Prabhakar? Sai Deepika? Shankar? Shiv Shankar? Sri Kavita? Come on, guys, respond.
Yes, Dilip. Dilip, can you repeat that mail notification? At that time you are just, I think
L-
you are
l-
fast.
Email notifications, we have a lengthy discussion. Okay. In the coming
Okay.
days, you'll understand it very clearly. I just tried to show you where you can check the emails in the email logs, but that's not going to give you complete idea now. Just for my
Yeah.
checking purpose, I have checked it in the email logs whether emails are sending out or not. Okay, you can ignore that,
Okay.
no problem.
Yeah. Okay.
Others all are muted guys, silent guys, not understanding whether you completely understanding or you're not at all understanding anything.
Why?
At least speak
Yes,
something.
yes, sir. We are understanding. Good, sir.
Alivelu,
Understanding, sir.
right? Manasa,
Yeah, I was able to read through it properly with your explanation. I have no problem with it.
Sai Deepika, Sai Deepika, unmute, please. Sri Kavita, all right, guys. So we'll start from tomorrow the workflow configuration as we already over the time, right? So tomorrow same time we'll connect and we'll complete the workflow, right? So we'll take up the use case, including all these activities. We'll try to configure a workflow. We'll understand it. Okay. Yeah, we'll continue tomorrow. Thank you.